We're rolling, Jesse. Jesse,
Yay!
this is the first time you've ever said, "Hey, let's do a juicy bits on something in the news."
Right?
Are
What
you
the
ready?
fuck is happening?
Are you ready for the title?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do it.
Canadian politics is boring, juicy bits.
Canadian politics is boring, juicy bits.
There we go.
That was always
So,
fun. That was a
why,
great title
why
sequence, by the way.
you just called me frantically saying we need to do a juicy bits? We
And
need
it
to do a
wasn't
juicy bit.
frantic.
It was. I thought you were on fire. That all the electrical issues in your home had finally caught up with you. But it wasn't.
Jesus.
Tell everyone why you wanted to do a juicy bits.
Well, I don't even know if this is going to be that interesting, to tell you the truth. Maybe we should just make this like a 3-minute juicy bit, not even juicy bits. Just a juicy chunk.
Just part
you know?
of a bit.
Just part of a bit, yeah. Just a juicy nib. A nubbin.
Juicy
So I don't.
nubbin.
I'm doing my taxes, and that's fucking fun. And on the site, it's like, don't worry, though, you can still submit your taxes even though the CRA is on strike. I'm like, what? The CRA is on strike? And I did like a 5-second Google search, and yeah, the CRA is on strike, and they refuse. They refuse to extend tax deadlines for everyone who are frantically calling them up and asking questions as they do during tax time, which is why they have call centers filled with people on the CRA ready to answer questions so that they can file their taxes. And there's nobody there. There's nobody there to answer their questions so that they can properly file their taxes. And the government's like, fuck you. It's May 1st. It's May 1st, and we're not changing that. Go fuck yourself, Canadians.
In the 5 minutes from when you called me to when we started recording, I looked this up.
Okay.
Thorough research.
I'd say that's about the same amount of research that you do for every other episode.
So right
what
now,
can you tell me about this, Reese?
there are 159,000 Public Service Alliance of Canada members, like who work for the federal government, who are striking, and they started on April the 19th, and they want wages and work flexibility. They want to stay working from home, and they want to have kind of increased wages because of inflation and everything. And
Inflation's that's a reasonable request when inflation happens. You know,
you changed the interest rate. You know, everyone's costs have gone up on a lot of like mortgages, those kind of things, and I mean other stuff is God knows why. But 39,000 of those workers work for the CRA, so it means that exactly that they're at reduced agent capacity, which means that you can't get help from them, but also then it means that because they haven't increased the deadline on delivery, on kind of getting it sorted, if you don't get that help, you will still be subject to penalties and interest.
which is insane. You know, honestly, well, like, I guess it's part of their negotiation tactics. Like, kind of like the whole, we don't negotiate with terrorists, we don't negotiate with people asking for a raise sort of thing. Like, if they
exactly,
if the government says, yeah, sure, we'll extend the deadline, that's a reasonable thing to do. That's maybe in their mind kind of admitting that there's a problem here. And you know what? I don't know.
It's that thing of like ignoring something in.
Yeah,
Which
if
we're
we
just going to
ignore
ignore
it,
it'll go away.
It'll go away. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. There's no problem here. There's no problem
Exactly.
here. Yeah. It's
It's like when there's like someone drunk on a train or a bus, and they just like shouting at random people, and everyone just sits there pretending that like that person doesn't exist because they're immensely uncomfortable.
I will say this for the people working, for my personal, I should annotate. Is that a word? Annotate that?
That's when you write down what somebody's saying.
Is that it?
I don't know. Is this an anecdote?
My vocabulary is growing as
Are you trying to
see.
see this anecdotal evidence on your part?
Perhaps that might do. Okay, sure.
You did a survey. This is your own qualitative research.
As a self-employed individual, as I am and have been for many years, I've had to, not had to, but I've done my taxes.
You do have to.
I do. Well, okay. Technically, I have to do my taxes. I mean, I don't have to do it myself. I could just bring it down to fucking H&R Block, which I've done before. And wow, what a waste of time that was. Some like teenager clicks into a computer for 5 minutes and then charges you $500. I'm like, nope, I'm doing this myself.
I wonder if they run ads on our show.
Not like they'd know. Nobody checks our ads. Nobody. I'm so surprised the ads that we get away with doing, like stuffing our our life savings into a dead moose carcass. There's no way they heard our ad. There's no way. Anyway,
So
what I was getting at is the people in the CRA are lovely. I've called them a bunch the past number of years with a lot of questions, as one does when you're just determined not to go to HR Block. And I've determined two things. One, they're very nice and they do not deserve your flack if you're upset. Secondly, they are not well educated in taxes and what is required for doing taxes at all whatsoever. If you call up with a specific question and you get an answer from them and you don't like that answer, say thank you very much for your time, hang up, and call back and get someone else, and you'll get a different answer. I know. Fucking kidding.
Although I've got to say, and this ties into every stereotype, dealing with the tax service in the UK is very different. They are terrifying. They train them to show no emotion. Have you ever seen the movie?
No.
Seen the movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale?
A long time ago, but I kind of remember it.
Everyone takes drugs so they don't have emotions, so that they can avoid war and conflict. It feels like
part of the movie.
Everyone is taking that drug who works in the tax office. I'm sure they're lovely when they go home to their families and their pets, but they're absolutely terrifying. I always would have some kind of cold sweat going on talking to them. But you're right, the Canadian CRA, they're always so nice. They're
very polite. Yeah.
I just talk to them about any old shit. I just ring them up when
well,
I'm
they
lonely.
don't know what they're talking about, but they're very nice.
exactly. But they are nice. They're much nicer. Like the British ones, they were more competent but horrible to deal with. The Canadian ones are nicer, but not quite fully trained for the role, I guess.
Right. So Canada, the Canadian government, the people in power, if you're listening, which we know you are, clearly this would be the one and only show you'd listen to. Pay them more and educate them, or hire people who are educated and then pay them more. Pay them more and pay them and educate them. It's a lovely cycle. If you don't feel like they're worth being paid more, give yourself a reason to, I don't know. You know what?
Invest in them.
Done. There it is. Thanks, Reese.
Invest in them.
I've been drinking coffee for 10 minutes and already my brain is soup. So
once you've invested in them, you'll realize that they are worth paying more because you're unable to cope to do anything without them, which they which they aren't already. But in my 3 minutes and 45 seconds of research, I did find something that might help you. So there is a clause that says, however, if circumstances beyond the control of a Canadian or business prevent them from meeting their tax obligations, the CRA may provide relief from penalties or interest.
No.
Canadians must first apply, and each file is assessed on a case-by-case basis. So what happens is that if you do end up getting charged and fined, you then have to go on this really long-winded kind of... It's going to take you ages, multiple phone calls. You will be able to get that money back.
Not only that, you have to pay the penalties up front and then
recoup
appeal and then hopefully get them sent back to you. Which I've done with other stuff. I think with interest, I've actually called them up. I've had to pay the interest. I called them up. I'm like, I don't think I should have paid that interest, which I had to pay. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we'll get back to you in 15, 16 months. And they did. And they paid me, but fuck me. It was so...
Could you imagine if how some organizations operate where they'll take 3 to 4 months for that to happen. If my kids came to me and were like, Dad, I'm hungry, I go, great, well, fill this form in and you'll get a meal in roughly 3 weeks.
I know 2 people who are working in the government, in the thick of the government, not the taxes, but in the government sector, and the both of them, and I won't say who they are, the both of them can tell me and have told me on numerous occasions just how mind-bogglingly inefficient our government is when it comes to doing literally
every
government.
This
may not be a surprise, but when you hear the details, because we all kind of heard that and joke about it in bars and pubs, sort of like, you know what I mean? Like that sort of like, the government's
Everybody
Yeah.
hates it, bureaucracy.
right. But when you actually hear the details from the horse's mouth and you're like, oh my God, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So Reese, I'm with you on that. Invest in your employees, make them worthy of the money that they want you to pay them.
Exactly. They're gonna go, hey, if you do this exam in 6 months' time with 6 months kind of training, you'll get this qualification, and then we'll pay you some more. No one's gonna say no.
Right?
How would you like
Who
to
would say no
progress?
to that?
How would you like to climb the ladder and progress in your role and overall develop yourself in a professional context? No,
Right?
no. I just came here for the free pens and to tell people I work for the government.
I had a question a couple years ago, and I'm honestly racking my brain to see if I could remember what it was, but it was an honest to God question about taxes, and I called up the CRA, and they had me on the phone for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour and a half, while they like just sent me from person to person to person to person. I must have talked to 5 people, and in the end, it was determined that they had no idea how to answer my question, and they're just like, just gotta put down what you feel like it is. I'm like, okay, thank you. Is that the official response from the Canadian government? Just do what I think the answer is, and we'll see how it goes. Thank you. I'm not kidding. That's how it happened for taxes. For my taxes.
when you build like a needlessly complex system,
It wasn't needlessly complex. This is just like me trying to figure out how to
no,
do
but
taxes.
I mean,
for
the system is needlessly
oh,
complex.
I see. Okay, yeah.
Like
yeah.
so, and when you've built this system and then you don't employ people on your side who understand that needlessly complex system, everyone is then just miserable. Like the people trying to help the people who are trying to pay you or work out how much they need to pay you miserable on both sides. Is I guess yeah. I don't know.
So
I think sometimes you just gotta like wipe the border clean and start over. I think this is one of those cases.
Sounds I don't know about that. That sounds like firing everybody and then rehire. Don't do that.
No, keep the people. I mean the system, like delete the data and the spreadsheets, and then just hey, 2024, it's gonna be a completely new system. Just tell us how much you got paid, and then we'll tell you how much we owe you. It's just
right? Wouldn't that be nice? Do you know back in, I think it was 2019, I still had to fax in information to the government. Fax. FAX. Have you heard of this machine? Very few people have. Okay, like
I haven't seen one for about 15 years.
I had to like do it online. You can fax people online. You can take a PDF and you can go to upload it into a server, and the server's like, give us the number and we'll fax it to them.
I want to find out. I want to find organizations that have fax numbers and just send them random shit now.
Have you heard of the stuff that they used to do? Like, I don't call them, these are not hackers, these are shit disturbers. But like, if you didn't, back in like the early 2000s and the 90s, if you didn't like a company, if a company pissed you off, you just fax them 100 black pieces of paper just to destroy their ink cartridges.
My ink.
There's all kinds of fun shit you could do. Have you heard of pager bombs?
No.
No? Oh, pager bombs are fun, man. Oh my God. They used to be before, when you had pagers. My friends, when I was a teenager, they showed me this. Right. And I won't say who they were, but back in the day, who had pagers? Who had pagers back in the day? There was like 3 to 4 people who had pagers.
My dad had a pager.
But like the main people were like doctors, drug dealers.
Yeah.
Who else? Construction workers, people just on call, right? And if you didn't like someone, if someone was an asshole, you could have a pager bomb. And this only worked at one very specific point in time. You could not do this today. You just couldn't, right?
Mainly because nobody has pagers.
There had to be 2 things for this to happen. There had to be pagers all over the place, and you had to have a computer with a dial-up modem. Okay? This is the only way the pager bombs could work. And there was a sliver of time where this happened, where you had an enemy, you really fucking hated this person, and you knew their phone number, okay? And you'd open up the pager bomb on your computer, and the pager bomb would be like, what is the victim's phone number? And you put in the victim's phone number. And then it'd be like, what are 3 pager prefix numbers. So like 498, 458, that sort of thing, right? Like the majority of pagers in Halifax in 1997 had a 498 prefix, the first three numbers, right? And then like, how many times do you want to hit them? And then you put like, I don't know, 1,000. Okay. And then you hit go. And your dial-up modem, which was directly connected to the phone, would then dial 1,000 random pager numbers and put your victim's phone number in it. So you'd have 1,000. Now, not all of them were existed, right? But maybe a half of them existed. So that's 500. Okay, got this random number, and out of those 500, about half would call. So you'd have 250 random people, drug dealers, ambulance drivers, construction workers. Did I get a call? Did I get a call? Did I get a call? That night, like their phone would be off the hook with you couldn't stop it. There's no one to block. It was the most evil shit. That's
amazing.
This is the sort of stuff we did as teenagers.
I remember when you said about fax machine then.
I know this is a juicy bit. I'm sorry for taking it off, but I just, you know what?
No,
I
was a
needed
great
to tell a story about the pager
I love
bomb.
The pager
right?
bomb.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid going to a science museum and they had a fax machine, and it makes you feel old. And they were like, "This is the future of the office." You put this piece of paper in here, million miles away, another piece of paper, exactly the same comes out.
So if you take a black piece of paper and you send in 100 of them, you can destroy their ink cartridges, kids.
Exactly. Maybe Staples just used to do that just to increase. Sales are down this month.
So this is already a long, juicy bit. You did research. Did you get through everything you wanted to tell me through the 5 minutes of research you did before the phone call?
3 minutes and 45 seconds. No, I think I did it. I think we did it. We also looked about the pager bomb. And here comes oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, what do you think of the strike? Like, what are your final thoughts on it?
I get it. I think everyone should be striking right now who isn't getting paid enough.
That's a great call. I can imagine a Canada.
Imagine if we all did it at the same time. Everyone would get what they wanted immediately, and then we could all move on.
That'd be amazing. So if you are out there, just remember what Reese said earlier on. If you're out there and you have questions for the CRA, for your taxes,
ask us if you want us to help us with your taxes. It will be wrong, but we will help you. It's CanadianPoliticsIsBoring@gmail.com. We'll help you answer all your tax questions incorrectly.
Specifically incorrectly. I will answer with nothing but colors, and Reese will answer with nothing but deli meats.
I'll answer. It'll sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I've just made it all up.
But just remember what Reese said. Okay, if you are
you need
genuinely...
a B52 form. That's what you.
Is that what it is? Yo, you don't know.
B52 form. Yeah.
Are you making that up right now, or is that actually what you said earlier?
No. All you need to do is get a B52 form, fill it in, send it off, and then they'll send you a P12. And that
you are making this up. Okay.
And the B52, you staple them together. And you roll them up,
you make
into
a hat
ball,
out of it,
and then you insert them into an enemy.
Okay, I am gonna be serious for just 10 seconds, which is hard for us to do. What Reese said earlier in the show, which is if you are struggling doing your taxes right now because you have questions and the CRA can't answer them because they're all on strike, and because of that, you might be late filing your taxes. Yes, you're going to have to pay the penalties and pay the interest. But if you want to, you can get that money back because
in about a year or two after 5 to 10 phone calls.
Yeah. But you'll get it back. So that's good to know. There you go. Public service announcement.
There we go.
A
we
really
public
long,
service
juicy bits.
Thing.
Yeah.
There
Sorry
we go.
about that.
So, okay, cool. Here's the titles.
Canadian politics is boring, juicy bits.